Hi guys, it's Miss Humphrey back with another math lesson. Yesterday we talked about acute, obtuse, and right angles. Today we're going to continue talking about those when classifying triangles. But one of your wonderful classmates left me a comment saying that they would like me to review obtuse and acute, which I'm happy to do, and I'd love to show you a visual I think might help. So if we look here, the right angle is the angle where I could put a piece of paper right in its corner and both of its lines would line up perfectly. That's how you can determine if it's a right angle. When I say an acute angle is smaller than a right angle, that means that it falls anywhere in between here and here. An obtuse angle is the opposite. It's going to fall anywhere bigger than the right angle. So when I take a piece of paper and I'm checking my angles, if I'm checking for the acute angle, I put the paper on one of its sides, and if I can't see the other side, that means it's acute because it's being hidden by my paper. But if I put my paper in the corner and it's not lining up, but it's actually extending further out than my paper, that means it's obtuse. It's bigger than this corner on the paper. I hope that helps because we're definitely going to need these to be able to do our lesson today. So make sure you continue to send me comments so that I can continue to review with you guys. Today we're talking about triangles. Real quick review. A triangle is a shape with 3 sides and 3 angles. I've drawn 3 pretty bad examples of triangles right there. And today we're going to use what we learned yesterday to classify triangles. Our first new vocab word is acute triangle. Go ahead and say it. An acute triangle is a triangle with 3 acute angles. So that means when I go to measure each of the angles, they're going to be smaller than the corner of this paper. And I drew a little picture of that right there. The next is an obtuse triangle. An obtuse triangle has 1 obtuse angle. That's going to be important to remember. Not all 3 angles are obtuse. In acute, all 3 are acute. But in obtuse, we are just looking for 1 obtuse angle. That means when I put the corner in that angle, it's going to be bigger. And lastly, we have a right triangle, which is a triangle with 1 right angle. That means there's just going to be 1 angle in that triangle that when I line my corner up, it's going to fit in it perfectly. So let's go ahead and start classifying. I'm going to show you how I do it with a piece of paper. Then I'm going to ask you to try one on your own and then check your work with mine. And then lastly, I'll post a Google form where you can try to classify 3 angles on your own. Make sure to give yourself a rating, 1 through 4, of how you feel about this lesson at the very end of the Google form. So let's get started. I have 3 angles on my board. I'm going to take a pen and a piece of paper. That's all that you should need also. And I am going to work on classifying these angles. So if I take the corner of my paper and I line it up with one of the lines on my triangle, and then I trace the paper, I need to ask myself, is my angle smaller than a right angle, bigger than a right angle, or is it exactly a right angle? And I see here that it's falling smaller than the right angle. But I need to check all 3 because I know an acute angle needs all 3 to be acute. So I'm going to then do the same thing, line it up with my next one, and draw another 90 degree. And I see when I draw that one, this angle is also smaller than 90 degrees. I'm going to do that with the last angle just to check. And I see that this angle is also smaller than 90 degrees. If you look here, this would be 90 and it's falling smaller. So because it has all 3 acute angles, that means this is an acute triangle. Let's check this one in the middle. If I put my paper right in the corner, I see it perfectly lines up with both my sides. Right away, I know 1 right angle means this is a right triangle. Lastly, I'm going to do this triangle here. I'm going to line up with my paper, and I'm going to draw what would be 90 degrees. What would be 90 degrees from this line would be right here. Is my angle smaller than that or bigger than that? My angle is definitely bigger than that. If there's just one obtuse angle, that makes this an obtuse triangle. I'm going to pause for a minute and let you guys take a look at how I figured that out with the paper. I drew right angles, and I saw were my angles bigger, smaller, or the same as that. So now I'm going to put this board up. I'd like you to pause the video and try this on your own. I hope you paused and now you're watching to see and compare how your work looks to mine. I'm going to use my piece of paper. I'm going to put it right in the corner, and automatically I see this one lines up perfectly. That tells me it's a right triangle, because a right triangle just needs one right angle, and I have one right there. Next, I'm going to check the one in the middle. I'm going to line it up with one of my sides and draw a right angle from there. And ask myself, is mine bigger? I kind of erased some of the triangle. Let me fix it for you guys. Is mine going bigger or smaller than the right angle? So if we look at this like it's a right angle, is mine bigger than a right angle or smaller than a right angle? It's definitely smaller, but I need to check all three sides. So I'm going to put my paper here and check again. I'm lining it up with just one of the sides, and then I'm drawing in the other side. So see, I lined it up with one of the sides, and then I drew the other side. And I see that again, if this were a right angle, my angle is smaller than that. I'm going to do that with the last side. And again, if I flip this over, if this were a right angle, mine is smaller. So because it has three smaller than right angles, that means three acute angles, this is an acute triangle. Remember, it's the only one that needs all three. Then lastly, I'm going to check this one. I see what I think is a big angle. I line up with one side, and I draw what would be 90 degrees. When I do that, I see my angle is bigger than 90 degrees. If I have just one obtuse angle, this is an obtuse triangle. Go ahead, check your work. How did you do? Did you get the same answers that I did? If not, make sure you're asking me questions. Send me private comments or emails, and make sure to do the Google form where you try this all on your own. I will make sure to give you guys feedback, and I'd love to hear how you're doing at home. So make sure you're reaching out to your teachers. I'll see you guys tomorrow.